The Good Ride, making mediocre matter one good setup at a time.
Next day.
Here we are talking about the Good Ride review. You've seen a little riding before this of the Salomon 6-stick 151. And I've ridden the 57 and compared it against the First Call, and it's such a fun ride. It's like one of those boards though that's just really hard to categorize. They call it a tapered twin. And if you ride it against a true twin, you're gonna be like, what the fuck? It's not a tapered twin, right? But then you ride it against all these other boards with like as much or less taper than these, and they feel way more washy on the tail. And then you kind of get like what they're saying. You're like, okay, this is a tapered twin. You know, this is like I was riding this against like a bunch of like super surfy, free ridey, kind of carvy, short fatties out there. Like I was constantly comparing this to my United Shapes Orbit, Inner Orbit, the 151. I love this board.
I do.
I love the edge hold. I love the side cut. What do they call it? Like the quadratic or quadradulizer.
It is quadratic, actually.
Yeah, but it's basically, you can kind of see it just kind of going in like this and going in out like that. You can see like multiple radius. Not in this review. But if you were to look carefully down the line, you can kind of see a little change in the side cut, and it's kind of cool. And it's got like a pretty good flex. And check the on the table review for the camber profile. It doesn't have a really bowed out camber, but it goes for a good distance, and then has a really mellow rocker. And comparing this to the 157, and I'm looking at the TV behind the camera, 25.5 was the waist width of the 157, and it definitely felt more like kind of more like a free ridey, a little more tapered, but still like loves a carve, doesn't feel washy, and then which is like 12 mil of taper, and this is 26.3 waist width, this 51. And it's got a wider nose and tail than the 57 I rode before.
And the waist is 263 versus 255. So if you're a big footer,
totally.
I'm an 11. I got no problem with this thing in a 151, which is pretty cool.
And what I really like about like this board in this shape is it feels like when you set it up on the reference stance, like this little X here and X here at 22 inches, it felt so double ender, didn't it?
Yeah.
And I was riding all these surfier shapes, and of course I've totally fucked it up. Just the weather is just so don't know. Just I fucking never know what's gonna happen the next day. So I set it up on the reference stance, and then we got a powder day. Just happened to get some good wind loading and a little more snow than the weather forecasted. So by the time I got up to the mountain, there was actually some good snow, and I was set up on a reference stance.
There was great snow.
Yeah.
There was no one on the mountain. And we had one of the best guys to show us around.
Mason, thank you.
Mason, thanks. And yeah, it was amazing. And I was a little back leg sore on some of the stuff. But when I did point it and want to go off a kicker or something.
This was
super
a back leg
fun.
burner, yeah.
Yeah, but yeah, I mean, I love this board. It's great width for me, size 11. If I want to ride a short fatty, this is I own this board and I love it.
At a 9, I was having so much fun riding switch and powder, where I was on all these other that day we were just doing the sampler, and I was on all these other tapered, super surfy, free ride to snow surfy, kind of like boards. And I was really, all the other boards I just wanted to be off the tail and slash and surf. And with this one I was like, oh, it's time to butter a little bit. It's time to ride switch. It's time to, just treat the mountain a little more mountain freestyle-y. And I think that's what this board does so well. And it's got a lot of setback on board. Check the On the Table review in the studio back there. But I was really impressed with this. I felt like this had a totally different personality than the 57 I've tried. I haven't tried the 62 in this design. So can't comment on that, but the 51 and the 57, they all seem like they're just different boards. Looking at the specs, it goes 26.3 in the waist for the 51, 25.5 for the 57, and 26 for the 62. So, and they all work fine with my size 9s, and they work fine with your size 11s.
25.5 is kind of pushing it, but what did you prefer, the 51 or 57? I mean, do you like the short?
I liked them both in their own ways. I felt like the 57 was a little more turny, but I just felt like, and it's like the last time I rode the 57 was last year. So I rode the 51 this year. So it's really hard to.
Would I want the 51 or 62? I'll take the 51 any day, get more width. And because it's kind of like, I don't know, whatever. Let's roll with it. Dynamite comes in small packages.
Like I was riding the 57 first call and the 57 six stick, the same, Peter and I were switching back and forth, and that was perfect. But then, riding the 51 from last year and the 51 from this year, which haven't changed except for the graphics, there was no difference, really. Did you notice any difference between yours and this demo? None.
Zero difference.
Zero fucking. Even laying them both down on the table, they had exactly the same camber profile. They had, you know what I mean? It was
which is a decent amount of camber, but it's not. It's medium. It's not a stiff board, I don't think.
Yeah, like when I was comparing this to the Orbit, which is somewhat similar.
But it's way stiff.
Somewhat similar.
Stiff.
It's a little stiffer. Actually, I was surprised when we flexed them both. It's a little stiffer, but it's just got so much more camber.
Yeah.
That it just feels like it popped so much more.
Yeah, way more, totally different boards.
This felt a little more like fun to ride switch on the reference stance, where the Orbit felt a little less fun, but it's still very doable. But that might have just been me riding a bunch of surfy boards this week. And by the way, love these crab grabs that whoever put on these before they sent it to me.
They're cool. You can 1 foot for ages.
They really work well. They really work well with the aesthetics of the board, but they're also just really good. They're really fun.
Yeah.
I was impressed. So, anything else you want to add with the six stick or?
No. I love this board. On it. Want to keep it for a long time. I think of the Salomon line, my personal preference is, aesthetically, it's beautiful. Great tail design. Has this cool aluminum tail thing happening. Tail protector. It's nice. Cool. Yeah. And boards I've owned in the past that have maybe not a swallowtail, because I would only take those out in powder, but maybe some sort of cutout in the tail I've damaged, so I think that's great design. They use a cork ABS bamboo combo for the sidewall. But it's a cool board.
The one thing I would say, my one complaint with this board, love that this has more inserts than the first call. But my biggest complaint though is the chatter. It's a weird kind of chatter too. On a smooth run, perfect groomers or powder, you're not feeling it at all. But when you get into that midday groomer that's kind of starting to get messed up,
right,
and get a little uneven, this passes a lot more vibrations up into your bones,
right,
into your joints. And where I think what I like the first call a little better is it feels a little more rubbery and damp in those kind of situations, where this feels like better when you're going fast and perfect snow.
Right.
So, that's that's like the one difference I felt between the first call and the six stick. The six stick felt more poppy, more dynamic, more perfect, and it really shines on perfect groomers and perfect powder. Where the first call might be more your call if you're looking at like riding all day and it starts out perfect but it gets shitty.
Right.
You're so stoked you want to stay anyways. Like it happens, with all of us still. Even if you ride like 100 days a year, there's some days where you're like,
I'm not leaving.
Some people are like, this sucks, and you're like, no, this is fucking great. I'm feeling great today, and when you're in that situation, maybe the first call might be the better call, but most of the time, this is the better call. It's more poppy, it's more dynamic, it's more lively underfoot, and it's just a fun board.
It's a great board.
Yeah, and it's very recommendable. It's going to be on our list. If you email me and it fits your specs, this might be one of the options that I recommend, and you might really like it.